Timcast IRL will be live in Miami with Patrick Bet David, Donald Trump Jr., Matt Gaetz, and Luke Rudkowski. Join us there. Get your tickets by clicking the link in the description below or by going to timcast.com. Let me pull up this story from the Post-Millennial. Biden's approval rating among Black Americans down 17 points, according to NBC. In fact, it's so bad that Washington Post downplayed their own polls, two of them, that showed Trump winning by 10 points. 10 points. CNN had a segment where they said... There were 2 now? There were 2 polls. One said 10 and one said 9.
I heard one. Go ahead, sorry.
So I don't know how it works necessarily, but they have 2 different polls of and that's what gets released to 538, or that's what 538 tracks. And so you have Biden losing. CNN running a segment where they say outright, in the 2020 cycle, we never saw Trump poll this well against Biden at all. In aggregate, Trump is beating Joe Biden. I'm imagining these people in New York, this judge, why would he bang the gavel to destroy the Trump organizations? He's crying. He's in his room, heart beating, racing, going, am I on the wrong side of history? I can't lose. We can't lose. Bang the gavel. In violation of what they once believed or whatever they thought they believed, arresting Donald Trump, arresting his lawyers, fining his lawyers. This reeks of someone crying and frantic panic.
All tyranny is a confession of weakness.
Yes.
But these people think they're fighting Nazis. Like they think they're saving the world from fascism.
But the problem is that the Nazis are the ones being honored in Canadian Parliament by the Prime Minister.
But that's a problem for us.
Well, it should be a problem for them. And then he says we have to watch out for Russian disinformation.
I don't think these people truly believe they're fighting Nazis. I believe they say that.
I think they really believe it.
I think some of them might, but I imagine a lot of these people, when you talk to, I've talked to high profile celebrities, musicians, rock stars, actors, etc. And I'm sure you guys have your experience with them as well, where they say things like, look, man, I can't be involved. I'll be destroyed. There are likely, in my opinion, high profile individuals in law enforcement and the judiciary who thought to themselves, oh my God, I can't believe what's happening to my country. These people have gone crazy, but if I speak up, they'll destroy me. So I've got to just keep my head down and play along and hope I survive. But they chose the wrong side. They chose the despots who are going to lose in this country called the United States. And now they're thinking to themselves, if Trump wins, it's me. I have no choice but to do everything in my power to make sure Trump can't do that. Trump's going to lock people up. I'm hoping. I believe there's a strong possibility.
He did it last time.
Yeah, but that was different. That was Trump thinking he could play ball. And now, and it was not this crazy. It was weird. It was wild. But Trump said, no, we don't do that. We're not going to do that. We're not going to arrest Hillary.
It seemed like the social norms were still in place, right? But now they're clearly off the table. So, I mean, if Trump does win and doesn't just jail every single one of these people, then you know it's over, right?
Do you think he would, though?
Do you think he, if elected?
I don't think he's got a choice. I mean,
but there are a lot of times that Trump has said that he would do something and he doesn't follow through. I mean, it's one of his biggest flaws, unfortunately.
I think that, but I feel like the reason that Trump behaved the way that he did when he was in office is because he believed that he would be accepted by the establishment. Remember, the only reason that he ran is because Barack Obama mocked him at the dinner. That was the last straw. That was I truly believe that was the last straw, because he wanted to prove that he was worth their respect, that he had earned and was worth being among the elite. And he thought, once I'm president, they will go ahead and accept me. And that's the way he behaved. And even up to right at the very end, when he gave General Milley an award and he gave Fauci an award the day before he left office, that was because he was looking to placate them. I assume, I have to assume that he sees now that there is no route for him to be friendly. That if he gets back into office, he has to take control, and he has to destroy the bureaucracy that's in there.
The point that you're making about how he believed that people would accept him, that has been Trump's fatal flaw his entire life. 100%. I mean, that's
Dave Chappelle's joke that he came out of the house to say they're all corrupt and then went back in.
Right.
He has always sort of wanted to return to the elite establishment.
But yeah, he wants that, and he's wanted that his whole career. Like none of the he was in real estate in New York. None of the other real estate people or like the architects or the contractors or anybody, they always were talking out of two sides of their mouth with him. And he knew it. Yeah. And he hasn't liked it.
I mean, that is Trump's big problem, is the need for approval.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if there's one thing that you can say that's good about DeSantis, is he's too autistic for approval, right?
Well, people have actually, this is a common thread among liberals, saying that Ron DeSantis is quite literally, they believe he genuinely has autism.
Yeah, I know, that's why I like him. But it's just not his time at the moment. But I don't know, man. I think the problem with like relying on like the great man to take out the organized minority is that the organized minority can lose lots of times and still win, whereas the great man just has to lose once and then it's over.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, he lost once.
I think it's.
Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, to clarify, when I say we're winning, that's not to say that we own the battlefield. It means that we have been pushed back, and finally now we have routed the advancing force, and their ranks are starting to break. That means on the battlefield we are in a weakened position, but we have begun a successful advance against this corrupt ideology where if this trend continues, we do win.
I don't know. I think they'll find a way of screwing him. I think that.
Sure. But Trump's not the end all be all. I think Trump is an avatar of the rage felt by people in this country for a long time. And he's absorbing more and more. He's growing bigger with each and every.
I mean, I hope so.
Well, it is. I mean, the fact that, Biden's approval rating among Black Americans going down. At the same time, Trump is surging among Black Americans. That is one of the most terrifying statistics to Democrats. It's been reported several times. Wall Street Journal recently, in the past couple of years, said if Democrats can't maintain 20%, or 80%, if at any point the Republicans go past 20% Black support, the Democrats cannot win.
Sure.
Period.
But the argument for Trump has never been stronger. But I'm very concerned about all of the salami slice tactics that they're going to employ. The ballot harvesting and whatever else it is that they do.
But
I'm not confident.
What would make you feel confident, though? Like, what would change to make you feel confident?
I mean,
or is it just a lost cause?
Voting would have to be done in person with pottery shards, right? That would make me feel confident, right?
I don't.
While there are all these other mechanisms, I'm skeptical.
I don't think the presidency is the end all be all. And it's not what matters. I think what matters is the cultural shift.
The problem is the presidency has been accruing extra powers and more central authority over the last few decades, and so it becomes this kind of totemic, influential position that legislates through executive order rather than doing things the way things should be done, right?
George Bush had a certain number of executive orders.
And
Obama had more.
Skyrocket.
Trump had more, and now Biden has the most.
And Biden was unbelievably aggressive on the first week.
In the first day, he had 20 or something.
Yeah, and then he just carried this on, literally doing hundreds of them. So it's this is just what happens to old republics, man.
Yeah.
Power centralizes. They don't last forever.
Well, let's clarify. I'm not saying that the existing structure of the United States is preserved. I'm saying there will be something new coming from it. I believe the left are reactionary. And it's always interesting how you define how they try to define what reactionary is, right? The left will say we're reactionaries because it makes no sense.
Well, the left explicitly claim to be progressive, and they are progressive because what they're trying to achieve is communism.
Yes.
What you're trying to achieve is classical liberalism, and that's what you had, and that's why you're trapped in this country with people who are at war with you because they literally are just psychotically obsessed with the end goal of communism, and they find any roadblock worthy of being destroyed no matter what it is.
But a component of what they do is reactionary in that they're trying to rewind the clock. I think we talked about this a long time ago, that the United States maybe not. It's one of the first countries with the concept of individual meritocracy without based on race, national origin, religion, etc. Yeah. And the left is trying to eliminate that. They're trying to rewind the clock to a time before we had this classical liberal system that allowed individual merit.
Yes, but the thing is, before and after won't be the individualistic classical liberal republic you're thinking of. But the left are not trying to go back to what was prior to the United States. They're trying to get to an idealized future that they think will come afterwards.
Technically, I would say overwhelmingly yes, but that's why I say a component, and is reactionary. That's why a lot of these words describe only specifics. To be
honest with you, you guys are the reactionaries here, right? Because you want the 1776 America.
No, I disagree.
Do you not want the 1776 America?
They had yellow fever. It was not good.
Well, but it depends.
Politically, technologically, obviously, you want things sort of advanced.
No, the answer is no. I don't.
Right. Okay. What are you looking for politically?
So it depends on what your definition of progressive is, right? I think that when you look at where this country was,
that's the question, right? Well, okay, they talk about we're progressives. Progressing where?
Right.
To what?
So that's why I would say, no, I actually want a changed future, right? I think that we need to amend the Constitution to clarify things and make them better. Now, I understand the political realities of amending the Constitution, opening the door to your enemies coming in and destroying it.
2/3 vote or something as well.
But imagine if there's a culture war and the communists are defeated and just totally give up and they're not a question anymore, and the constitutional Republicans or Republicanists, whatever you want to call it, say, hey, how can we amend the Constitution to improve upon it so this doesn't happen again? For instance, the Second Amendment can be made to include literally any arm, any accessory. Quite literally, we need to fix things. But I also want to point out that I don't want to go back to a time pre-women's suffrage. I don't want to go back to a time when a constitution was written about the rights of men when men were enslaved. I don't want to go back to any of that. I want to see the realization of our moral values.
I wasn't speaking to the literal point of 1776.
But this is the point. We're not trying to go back.
I was talking to the spirit of the thing, right? Because obviously the amendments came afterwards. And obviously they're good. So
if we're saying reactionary as in go back to the way things were, that's a bad thing. We don't want to do that.
No. I'm not saying literally go back in time. What I'm saying is you're trying to restore the spirit of the American Republic as it was originally conceived. Because all of the good things that the American Republic was conceived of, all of the founding fathers knew would be a consequence of the American Republic. They just didn't have the political capital to be able to do it right there and then. Right,
agreed.
Like all of, not all of them, but a lot of the founding fathers owned slaves, but wanted to abolish slavery and things like this, right? And so they knew that this was the path that this would end up being done on. And so you want to return to that spirit. But the thing is, the progressives have got a different interpretation of this. And they say, okay, yeah, well, we want freedom too. We want freedom from everything, right?
Freedom from hunger.
Positive freedom.
Yeah.
And so their version of progress, their ideal view of the future, is essentially what you could describe as communism. It's the freedom from literally everything, and you're trapped in this country with these lunatics.
Right.
This is half your country that are absolutely fucking batshit, that have stigmatized the human body itself as an oppressive thing. Right. Reality itself is a form of oppression, and so now what do you do with them? Like how do you deal with that?
Well, so in terms of descriptions of reactionary or otherwise, it's almost pointless because you could make the argument that everyone else is more reactionary. To what degree?
Sure, but the question is the moral loading on the terms. I mean, to be a progressive, to say, well, you want children to be completely liberated from any relationship with their own parents. That's horrible. Right? If it makes me a reactionary saying no, children belong to their parents and they should love and care for each other, then I'm a reactionary.
Well, right, but should we can be dark with it. I think we're winning. You want to know another reason why I think we're winning? Because the left is substantially more likely to abort and sterilize their children, and the right are encouraging people to have families and have kids.
The problem is they control the schools.
And also,
but look at what's happening in this country with the cultural shift, with parental rights and education. Look at Loudoun County is literally 30 seconds away from this building. 30 seconds, boom, you're in Loudoun. If you want to go to where the schools are, you drive a little bit more. But the parents are showing up and they're saying, hey, we don't want this stuff. And the laws are getting passed across the board. Now, there may be conflict between the cult and the free people of the United States. Don't get me wrong. But there's a major cultural shift where this is the data that I often cite because I covered this several years ago. Mm-hmm. In the 2000s, several studies showed liberals were having 1.5 kids, conservatives were having 2.05. Surprise, surprise, 20 years later, you have Pew Research showing slightly more conservative young people, only a tiny, tiny bit.
Yeah.
Which is a marked shift because typically each generation is more progressive. Now you're seeing parental resistance to what these schools are trying to do. You're seeing more and more people like us watching shows like this and others saying outright no to this education system, advocating homeschooling and pod learning, and actively participating in their school boards. With that in mind, with the conservative base and the libertarians and the post-liberals knowing they're coming for your kids, they are in trouble because they don't have kids. The saying goes, socialists don't have kids, they have yours. But if these families have become apprised of this and have begun to push back and resist, now it's danger territory for them because they don't have kids.
I really feel like I understand what you're saying, but I feel like the left wants fewer people. So the fact that
they want fewer people, that's why they're gluing themselves to the sidewalks.
Exactly. Yeah. They want significant. I believe that they probably want around 1 million or 2 human beings on Earth. Like that's really the goal.
500.
500,000?
500 million.
500 million. Okay,
they're
so
also
that was
doing
on the
like
Georgia Guidelines,
degrowth.
anyway.
They're doing
Oh, was it? Okay.
They're doing degrowth.
exactly, that's
initiatives.
exactly where I was going. Degrowth because they don't believe that the country, the world can support it.
But let them.
But the thing about the parents, the one thing about parents, and I've talked to Moms for Liberty about this, and I've talked to other, parents' rights advocates. Parents go to school board meetings. Parents talk to teachers. Parents deal with all of that stuff. And it doesn't matter that the Department of Justice called them domestic extremists. It doesn't matter that the, FBI sought to investigate parents. Parents just keep showing up because the stakes for parents are way too high. Once you have a kid, you look at your child, that's not just your future. I mean, it's their future. It's your future. It's the future of, their children. It's so much more important.
The question I have for everyone who listens to this show, do you want your children to live in the pod and eat the bugs? Yes or no?
So it's not that it can't be one. I just don't think that, I'm just going to broadly term the right, even though that is a deeply inaccurate way of characterizing it.
I call it freedom faction.
The
I
opposite.
like that.
It's the opposition to the left, right? That really is what we're talking about. I'm just going to characterize it as the right, just for the ease of the conversation.
The resistance.
The resistance. The problem that they have is if you were to look at the organizational capacity, the resources, the number of people that the left has active right now all over the place, it's staggering how much more power the left has than the right, right? I mean, the parents do have to show up, but the thing is, there's only so many times they can show up. There's only so much time they can take off work. There's only so much money that they could collectively gather together to have a lawsuit against some Soros-funded or whoever-funded billionaire activist organization. And these people are being paid and will always be paid. And not only that, treat this like a crusading faith. And so they get up in the morning desiring to do this. You're trapped in this country with essentially a bunch of religious termites.
But I understand this. But did you know the founding fathers of the United States thought that we would lose the war for independence?
Sure.
They were saying many of the same things in a similar way. They were saying we can't possibly win.
Yeah.
You can't go against the crown. It's impossible. In fact, I was reading about Lexington and Concord, the shot heard around the world. And the reason this is considered so pivotal for the American Revolution was that prior to the battles at Lexington and Concord, which were more of just like a handful of farmers fighting cops, essentially.
Yeah, basically.
No one believed there would ever be arms raised against regulars.
Sure.
It was just no. Because you had the Boston Massacre where they're throwing rocks and stuff, basically a riot. And then, a lot happened, we'll put it that way. But this idea that simply because you are up against Goliath means David can't win, I just don't think is correct. I think the issue with
just a quick thing here. No one's coming to save us, though, right? You had 16,000 French troops. Come over.
That's true.
French and professional troops.
That's why we won.
These were the best in the world, right? The French troops at the time were the best in the world.
Right. They were at war they were fighting a war against Britain. That's not, they weren't helping us.
Where did we get that?
There's a lot of veterans in the United States.
No, but it's not literal.
Yeah, it's not literally, where is the support that's going to come externally from an interested party who actively wants to defeat the left?
It'll be the other way around. It'd be like UN troops because I brought this up before.
But it's not literal troops. If we're talking figuratively, where's the cultural efforts?
The resources, right? The resources needed to win whatever war you're in. If it was, on sea, it'd be boats. If it's on land, it's troops. But it's culture war we're fighting here. And it's a kind of social war that's going on. Where could the reinforcements come from? And
I don't know if we need...
We have Gen Z. Gen Z is more conservative. The kids who are coming up now are more conservative. They have a much deeper interest in, their basic rights and also thinking that all this stuff is trash. They look at their gay teachers waving flags around and they roll their eyes with disdain.
In the analogy of the American Revolution, you're correct. We only won because of France.
But just a quick thing.
Mostly.
What's the reading level of Gen Z?
The reading level? I don't know.
Grade.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. I don't know about that. My son over the weekend was like, "Mom, do you know Hamlet? I'm reading Hamlet." And I was like, "By all means, go ahead, read Hamlet."
Yeah, but you escaped.
Yeah, I escaped.
Don't you homeschool your
literally
kids?
December, and no, I don't homeschool my child.
Do you run
but look, hold on. I want to address
child?
this. In the direct analogy of the United States, we can point out the U.S. needed support. We needed help.
Sure.
Quebec said, no way, we're not getting involved, and they would have been the 14th colony. There were other colonies. But in this instance, I'm not so sure we actually need that. If the informed class of people in this country are continually shifting away from the establishment narrative, it's going to be more V for Vendetta than American Revolution.
Sure.
It's going to be that scene where the inspector says eventually someone will do something stupid. And then it shows the finger man shoot the little girl. And then the locals come out and say, we just don't care anymore. And they got baseball bars and crowbats.
Pretty sure V
baseball,
dies, though, right?
Baseball bars and crowbats? What the? Baseball bats and crowbars.
But V dies though, right?
Yes, but to be honest, V chooses.
Sure.
That was kind of the point. He was done. He was tired. And so he decided to confront, what's the guy's name? The VP.
I know the guy.
Right.
I can't remember his name.
I remember Creedy.
Yeah. And I remember, was it Prospero? Was it? What was the guy?
No, Prothero was
Prothero, that was it.
He was the TV guy.
Yeah, I remember him.
Yeah, he was the... Yeah, the but anyway, V didn't have to. He confronts.
Sure.
But the point is, it's not about V himself, right? You can maybe that's Trump. You can say Trump is
could be.
Jeez,
could be he's our V. But
I would love to have an AI movie generator just replace V with Trump.
Oh my goodness.
He's like fighting and
you could do that. That technology exists.
Right. The right doesn't have the right mindset to win the war. That's the thing, because the right's fighting to be left alone. And they're fighting to exterminate.
But I think the right is starting to see its values play out in other countries. I mean, I think of like Eastern Europe and Georgia right now. They're both very pro-nationalist, pro-natalist countries.
That Argentina guy.
Right. I mean, I think we do see it on an international scale. And so, yes, they want to be left alone, but they are seeing their values echoed other places.
Yeah, but the problem is, these are all essentially what you can just characterize as like the great men of history. Like it's one guy. Right, it's one guy who's like in Argentina. I'm going to do all this stuff. Okay, maybe you will be like an Alexander the Great and you'll conquer the entire machinery of the Persian Empire. But if you fail, that thing is just going to swallow you up, right? And so you're putting a lot on one guy. Like they don't have the organizational capacity that the left has.
Let me give you another historical reference to a conflict fought over one group trying to be left alone and one group trying to control the other. And that reference is in American history. It's the Civil War.
Okay.
The Confederacy's initial moves were secession, leave us alone, we out.
And they lost.
And then what happened was the Union said, not going to happen.
Yeah.
Then this caused a major freak out among several more states like Virginia, which were 2-1 in favor of staying with the Union until Lincoln was like, nah, actually, we're going to conscript people and we're going to go fight to suppress the rebellion. That triggered 4 more states to be like, this has to stop. This is funny because the Confederacy could have won in the first battle of Bull Run, but they chose not to invade D.C.
Okay.
After the Confederates won and shocked the North and pushed them back, they said, that's it, gentlemen, we got it. Now we'll be left alone. And they were wrong.
Yes.
And then, not to say anything, like the Confederacy was predicated upon ridiculous trash
obviously
ideas.
we don't support the Confederates' ideas, but this is just an example from history of how this works. And that's the thing that I'm really concerned about, because like I just said, the people who want to be left alone, they don't win the wars.
Well, what's interesting, though, is the people who want to be left alone, we are looking at a similar sort of situation with the states' rights fight, because we have a lot of states who are passing laws that are banning, trans stuff, abortion.
It's split, though.
Yeah, who are like making these...
Dangerously split.
It's dangerously split, but that's sort of what we're looking at now, that abortion is a states' rights issue. The trans kid stuff is, not elucidated in the Constitution. Therefore, it's a states' rights issue. And there's other issues with regard to education and stuff like that. So we are seeing things solidify down states' lines.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.